What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. And we got another episode of At Me Bro. I am here with my man's Nelson Blake II. What's going on, Nelson?
What up, B? How you doing, man?
I am doing good, doing good. And thankfully, we got the production skills of my wife. She is handling business here, and making sure that she's doing her best to keep us on track. Sometimes we are like wild Mustangs in Red Dead Redemption, and no matter how hard or long you hold the triangle button, we just will not be tamed. So, all right, let's jump into this today. Brooks, I know you had something you were talking about. It's about a game that's coming out later on this year. And I believe, unless you change it on me, which you switch it up a lot, but what you got?
I don't switch nothing. I wanted to talk real quick about Crackdown 3. Now, Crackdown 1 was a lot of fun, right? A lot of fun early days of the Xbox. And Crackdown 3 is coming out. And it's one of these games, and we're going to talk about one or two of these games coming up, that gets hyped off of its legacy of what it was back in the day. And I'm seeing a trend with developers that has me very nervous about Crackdown. So I wanted to throw this out there now and see how it compares to where it comes out. Bottom line is this. Crackdown looks like it's just a bunch of jumping around and shooting and blowing up buildings. And some people will say, oh, that's a video game. That sounds fun. I'm not with it. I'm going to tell you why. When Crackdown came out, that was the first time you were really able to do that in the open world. We were still in the early development of sandbox games, right? We had I think by that time we had little Spider-Man, obviously GTA, but we hadn't gotten really in there. So every little thing you could do, you talk about throw a car at somebody, it was crazy. Now we're in the post-Spider-Man era. You can't just show up after all of these games and give me some simple, just blow stuff up, blah, blah, blah. And what really bugs me about it with Crackdown is we don't get a lot of cop games, right? And the opportunity is there to give you that real Ghost in the Shell, RoboCop, future cop versus future crime kind of thing. And every piece of footage I see looks really basic, no layers whatsoever. I'm not saying it has to have the greatest story, but it could just be about design, right? Like something like Monster Hunter doesn't have a great story, but it has a great design that you go in and you do a lot of stuff. And I'm just very afraid that they're making a similar mistake, but on a greater level that Rockstar made with Red Dead Redemption 2, in that they relied on something that worked 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago without looking at the rest of the gaming world and saying, we need to step our game up because this has been done better in so many ways. Now obviously Rockstar is excellent in every other area besides their gunplay. So people give them a pass for, like I said, what was the worst shooting game I've personally played this year in terms of Red Dead, just the shooting aspect. But I think Crackdown looks like they're about to walk into being like the worst, if you call it superhero action sandbox game we've seen in a while. Like it's probably going to be worse than Infamous First Light from what it looks like. And I really, really hope they do better. And they need to be on notice about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm nervous for a lot of reasons. Actually, I'm nervous because we're talking about a game that's supposed to come out next month.
Yeah,
and the promotion for it is very limited.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing lists and different, coverage about the games coming out in the first quarter. And I'm hesitating to put it in anything because I just don't feel 100% positive that it's coming out.
Right.
The other thing that always worries me is when they throw a star, a movie star or something's likeness into a game for no real apparent reason.
Yeah.
Terry Crews is cool and all, I have no problems with Terry Crews, but adding Terry Crews into this game to me doesn't go, oh yeah, man, Terry Crews is in it. I really think I want to get it now. It just,
You know what's ironic about that point? Terry Crews is on a very, very good cop show, in my opinion. I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine is hilarious. I think he's hilarious on it. And if Crackdown had a Crackdown version of all of that stuff, I want a robot partner that I roll with that gives me crap. I want a captain that hates it when I blow up too much shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
They have all that stuff in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that's why the show does well. Immediately got picked up by NBC.
After it got dropped,
from Fox, right? Because the audience, like the internet, exploded when they canceled that show.
And speaking of that, I'm sorry, I got to get this in because you just said that the show Timeless that I loved. Oh my God. They canceled Timeless. So I became a part of the online community trying to, and I'm telling you, I circulated the tweets, I pushed the hashtag, and at least we got a 2-hour finale to finish off the story. But they never should have canceled Timeless. So I just had to say that because I was feeling some type of way about it.
I'm glad you said that because we could go ahead and transition this into how dare they cancel Daredevil. Daredevil season 3 was so ridiculously
I've heard it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it was great.
I recommend it. It's amazing. And I'm very, very, very upset that Daredevil is not on the air. And I'm not going to name other shows because I have too many friends in the business, but the other shows are on the air. It don't make any sense.
Yeah, I've heard it. Like we took a glance at it. Like on the Netflix menu, thinking about starting to watch it, but we didn't yet. I'm not saying that we won't, but I've heard nothing but great things about it. I did notice they had gone with the TVMA for it, which I thought was kind of strange because I don't recall, and I could be wrong, but I don't recall Daredevil being a really super edgy kind of show. I mean, kind of character, I should say. But I don't know. I guess they were just kind of trying to adapt because I mean,
they bring it a little harder in season 3 too.
Because Murdoch was always like
it ain't about him; it's about his enemies.
Yeah, he's always kind of just I guess so. Yeah, so I guess you can do that and still stay true to the character.
Yeah,
because you know what I'm saying. Because I was saying he's always kind of
the character is that he's a good man in a really hard world.
Yeah, in a bad world.
Punisher is a hard man in a hard world.
Yeah. And I always really liked that class of Marvel, the street class. The street class is just like it's pretty dope. We were talking a little bit about regular, non-sports games and stuff like that. But you guys know that we always like to, get stuff into, get back to the sports game talk as much as possible. So one of the things that I have been kind of mentioning on various platforms for years, I would say last 2 years at least, is the concept of switching the release cycles for sports video games from annual to biannual releases. And I'm going to tell you why I think that, because I'm going to say at one point, I didn't want that at all. I just totally was like, no, absolutely not. That's garbage. No way. Right. But what made me change my mind and become a strong proponent of that is what I've seen done to sports games from a update patch standpoint, content updates, patch updates, the things that developers are able to do now to games post-release makes me feel that the amount of content that could come out after a game is released and then still have somebody literally working on a game for now 18 months as opposed to 8 or 9 now really excites me, because now you get a chance to kind of segment your resources to make better games, because ultimately that's the key, right? Everybody wants to have better games, better sports games. They want to see most of us want to see a bigger jump from NBA 2K19 to NBA 2K20, from Madden 19 to Madden 20, from FIFA 19 to FIFA 20, from MLB The Show 18 to MLB The Show 19. We all want to see this a more significant jump. But the fact of the matter is that the development cycles at this point are too short for us to see this significant jump. But a game like EA UFC 3, which is like on an 18 to 20 month cycle, if you look at the amount of content that has been added in this game from the time it released to now, it's really staggering, right? If you look at a game like Fallout 76, which largely flopped when it came out, and I think it is probably beyond resuscitation, even though they've changed a lot since it came out. I think it is beyond resuscitation because it just died so much early. But it shows you what can happen if you have that time. So I would really love to see that happen. I would let you respond to that initial thought, but I want to also talk about what I think that could look like specifically how I think that could look.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I want to know what your initial response is to that concept.
I have two responses, because as if the people know, we come from a show, Sim Hangout, where one of the host of the show is Desire. He's a developer. And so we originally did a show where we had a bunch of guys who got picked up for 2K, Scott OG, Left Dose, and so on and so forth. So I know a bit about the process. And my answer to you is there's what I would want, and then there's what I think. Now, what I would want the same thing you would want, right? Like if we got a leap like between UFC 2 and 3, that'd be awesome. Because I felt like UFC 3 was better without compromises. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a better experience overall. I never need to play UFC 2 again. Don't need to see it. Don't care about it. UFC 3 gave me the MMA experience I desire. Even though I want to see, we talked about this before, career mode, there's certain things we could see better. I'm still happy. That's the point. It's not like with 2K, whereas with 2K, there's certain things that you're not just mad because it's not perfect. You're mad because it's a version of not perfect that you're so familiar with. So I'm with you on that. However, the problem is that's a good idea if it works, and it's a terrible idea if it doesn't work. And I mean that both for us as, gamers and for the company, right? And when I say for the company, that's me being realistic about this is a game that sells 10 million copies and makes more money off of the microtransactions than they do off of being a top 3 game throughout the year, right? Like that needs to be said. This game is one of the top games throughout the year, and they still make more money off of microtransactions throughout the year. So putting that at risk, we have to be realistic about that. But putting the realism of the financial element aside, there's also this. Sometimes ideas are bad. And I don't want to be stuck with a bad idea for a 2-year cycle. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that idea is so structural that an update won't fix it, where it's like, no, we need the new version. Get this fixed and changed now. So for instance, let's say, and it's also, if you're talking about updating it to the point that you drastically fix it, then why would I even want a new edition at all? Right? So the lines get a little blurred. I think it's not necessarily, I don't want to say realistic. I think there's a lot of danger in a longer cycle for some of these games, particularly at a place like 2K, where there's so many different kinds of ideas that you could wind up just being stuck with something you don't like for a longer time.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I do know that time can exacerbate that issue. Extending the time can exacerbate that issue, but I think that we're kind of in that already to a degree. And because we live in such a microwave society where everybody's patience and time and attention span is so much shorter, I think that when somebody gets here's the thing. I don't believe that there's any problem that would be so deep at this point where we are with a combination of obviously all of these concepts are dependent upon the team involved utilizing some level of logical planning for a game, prospecting, and that's all the things that go into the process when you plan a new direction.
But let me jump in right here, because I think this is an important point. And I don't think we're necessarily even disagreeing here.
No, I think you're more giving cautions to the concept.
Because it's a complex issue. Like we say this, but it's a very complex issue. So let's say developer X has an idea, and it's an okay idea. It's an idea that 50% of the company is like, I don't know, and the other 50% is like, no, it'll be good. This guy has been right before when it looked a little iffy, so you really got to let it rock. Let's say developer Y has a completely opposite idea. On a yearly cycle, developer X gets proven wrong and gets shelved. On a biannual cycle, it turns into that idea gets put more into. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things that people would not like about. I'm not going to call out a certain feature because that's calling out a certain developer, but there might be things that showed up in the game that the entire community is like, why did you waste time putting this in the game when this needed to be fixed, when we've been asking for this forever? And I'm saying it is very, very, very likely that could be a 2-year mistake, even going into the next thing. Like, we might wait 2 years for something we never asked for, never wanted. And when I say that that's likely, I don't mean, oh, but if it goes well, that won't happen. No, there's no way to game plan around that, because some of these ideas that have been great have looked the same before they came out. And some of these ideas that have been terrible have looked the same before they came out. You know what I'm saying? Like, It's not always obvious behind the scenes whether or not something is a terrible idea or a great idea.
I agree, but I think that, so to a degree, that kind of approach is what can potentially leave you stagnant. And because one of the things about 2K, right, and I'll call 2K out for this specifically. One of the great things about 2K and one of the negative things about 2K is that they usually are willing to try things first.
Yeah.
Things that other people haven't done, and they fall flat on their face sometimes, and then other times they do things that people are like, y'all need to do what 2K is doing, like, and that's their gift and their curse, right? That's their that's their double-edged sword. If there's a better example of that in sports gaming, I don't know what it is, as far as the way they operate. And the way I think this goes is, you come up with this development cycle, and say, for instance, with this biannual approach, right? And say, for instance, you're saying, hey, we're going to change the entire engine. Like, we're going to change. That's what we're doing. Because the whole point of having these huge gaps in between the releases is so that you can make more substantial changes, right? But during that process, you release things like betas. You release things that give an opportunity to kind of test what you're doing. Now, you can never test for everything. We've seen that over and over and over again. And I'm obviously I'm mentioning 2K, and I'm mentioning some of these other companies, and we know some of these companies get things wrong, just flat get it wrong with the way they plan it. So my idea is more about doing it the right way, because if any process, if you do it wrong, it's not gonna work out.
Right. And here's my response to you on that. I think for your idea to work, what has to happen is that, and this is not just 2K, this is for all of these companies, because I've actually seen this at EA as well. The producers in charge need to have the right idea. And the producers with the right idea need to be the ones in charge. Now, I'm not calling out anybody specifically because this applies to everyone. When a producer with the wrong idea is in charge, a 2-year cycle is worse. When a producer with the right idea is in charge, a 2-year cycle might be better. And that is the problem, not the cycle. Like, I understand, like, I'm with you on the cycle, but before we get to that cycle issue,
absolutely.
What needs to happen is that the community needs to be very, very clear and vocal and vote with their dollars about these games and about the features that they want, that they don't want, and put pressure on these producers. Because usually when we have an idea, there are at least a few people, sometimes many people in the company that have the same thought, the same idea. But what happens is every opinion doesn't have equal weight and equal value. So if me, you, Portia, you know, Greedy Rashidi, Gonzo Star, we all think this thing needs to happen, but there's producer X who's like, I don't think so, it's not going to happen. But if they go a year and the community's like, we hate whoever did this, then the next year they'll be like, my bad, we got to fix it. And the more the games come out, the better chance we have of getting the right producers or the producers with the right idea. I don't want to say the wrong producer because, again, everybody's wrong sometimes, everybody's right sometimes. And when you're constantly inventing, which 2K and a lot of these companies are, but 2K in particular, they're always inventing something new. They're always doing something new. And you can be cynical about the game and say you don't believe that, but that's true.
That is true.
It's just true. If you analyze the process and know enough about gaming and sports gaming, that's just true. So guys are going to be wrong and they need to make mistakes. And sometimes, and when you're making a game that costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to create, you have to, as an audience, accept that those mistakes are sometimes going to be big and they're going to look bad and they're going to be obvious. However, the producers with the right idea need to get their opportunities on a year-by-year basis first before we do that. Because right now, the way these games are trending, I'm seeing a lot of bad ideas getting too much time. And the community knows it. Other people in the gaming companies know it. And it just, the reality of that needs to hit these producers. And the only way the reality of that is going to hit them is if the audience, one way or another, lets them know. So it's not that I dislike your idea. It's just I know that before your idea is viable, there's another issue that has to be solved.
Yeah, I think that I agree with what you're saying, but like you said, I don't think that makes the idea a bad thing. I think the idea is the right way to go at this point. But but see, here's the thing. I think you need to have the right producer in place, even if you're on a 6-month cycle. I don't know, whatever cycle you're on, you need to have the right people in charge. So I think that kind of goes without saying.
My point is, on a 6-month cycle, you'd find out those mistakes sooner.
Right. And it becomes more of an issue if we're stuck with this guy forever. Like, I mean, a lot of people would like to shorten the stay for the president right now, but you know,
and that's actually a great metaphor, right?
Right. They like to shorten the term from 40 years to 1 year.
Well, maybe I think 6 years. A guy needs time to get his plans in place. Right. Yeah, I don't want him to have that time.
He won. Give him 1 year.
I think every year we should reevaluate this situation.
You know, but like I do want to talk a little bit about kind of how I think it should look.
Yeah,
you know, please. More specifically. I think everything that you do in terms of from a major structural standpoint should have a kill switch, right? And that's to guard against something like you're saying, something that just falls completely apart. Worst case scenario, we revert back to the last version. Worst case scenario, right? The last version, which is probably one that maybe people didn't think were perfect, but if this new thing falls completely apart, people will welcome that old version back with open arms because at least they could play it, at least they could whatever, right? So that's the kill switch, right? But for me, I think through the time period, you have to be very, very communicative in terms of saying, here's what you get throughout the year in between releases. And you have to make good on whatever you say you're going to get. So if it's 2K, for my team, you're going to get weekly moment card releases, or you're going to get weekly signature pack releases. You're going to get, this is what you're going to get, and a detailed thing, because what from a financial standpoint, the way the developer or the publisher is going to make their money, because that's one thing people are going to say, well, why would they do that? Why would they just eliminate an entire entire year of sales? Yeah. Well, to me, at this point now, we need to go to subscription services. I think that you need to pay. I think that people would go for paying one time a year to have access to download this game, the entire game, for the cost of their their subscription, as well as an extended subscription service that gives them some VC payout every month automatically. So they get VC payday every single month. That gives them a certain amount of VC every month. And this lingo can be translated to whatever game or environment. Gives them a certain amount of packs each month. Now they can still go and buy above and beyond that if they want to go higher. But if you have the subscription service, you get pretty much everything, just about everything reasonably that you would need. And it's really no difference than the boost that you get when you buy the limited edition. And other people only buy the standard edition, so they don't get the 250,000 VC that comes with it, or whatever it is that you're going to get. And then in terms of obviously roster updates, you get that. And there has to be a team that's committed to making sure that that is consistent and it's as up to date as possible. And you're like just the constant content updates. And it has to be more than what we see currently with a lot of these games. Like, guys, if you have a biannual release, I will, every time a guy changes his hairstyle or facial hair, we should see a change within.
I'm with you on that. So I think for me, the answer to improving the quality of games, honestly, is all of these games need to be more like UFC in terms of the updates. I would actually say they need to be more like Destiny and Overwatch and MMO games, because 2K is an MMO. Like,
it is.
Right? We've discussed this before. But 2K doesn't have MMO type maintenance and updates and features.
Right.
So 2K needs basically an MMO feature seasonal update strategy team. They need an offline feature strategy team. And then they need a structural team. Now, I think the thing that would solve everything is if 2K did what Call of Duty did. And they had Treyarch makes this Call of Duty, which is coming out here. And this other squad, Respawn back in the day, makes this Call of Duty, which comes out here. So we're getting yearly releases, but we're not squeezing it into a 9-month cycle for any one development team. I honestly think 2K just needs to expand their squad and know when they have a year that's like a big year and a year that's a medium year, and eliminate small years.
I totally agree. I think that is... Exactly. Yes. That is a very good way to get to what I'm talking about, essentially, because and that's kind of what I was alluding to. You're going to have to bring in more people to do this. Not I don't think it's as many people as it might seem, because now I think they're already multitasking across several of these different developer studios. Yeah. There's a lot of people already doing that. But I do think, I think what you're saying with the Call of Duty references is on point, though.
Yeah, and because the important thing about 2K is there are 3 ways to upgrade the game, basically. You upgrade with features, you upgrade with basic mechanics, and you also upgrade with the amount of events that are there. Events are not to be confused with features. A feature is something that launches with the game, like Pro-Am, My Career, My League. That's a feature. An event is something like Reese's and all that other stuff.
Yeah, my League Unlimited tournament and all that. Right. I mean, my Team Unlimited tournament.
And the structure is stuff like speed differential, ball handling packages, how they interact with defensive, interactions and all that other stuff. And I think the biggest flaw in 2K is actually the technical side of it is the number one flaw. Is
Absolutely.
the controls are very dated and bad feeling. It's just one of the worst feeling video games in terms of the video game part of it. Does it really feel good to dribble in that game? I don't think it does. Does it really feel good to move around in that game? I think it feels way worse to move around in 2K than it does in almost any video game because of just the level of delay that's on your character. Just go into the game, press left on your stick, and watch what your character does. He moves his head to the side and doesn't move his feet. Like, that's not what you want when you move left on a stick in anything, right? You want your stick to move the character in a basically the illusion of a one-to-one relationship. That's the kind of stuff that 2K needs to change in order to get to be a competitive game. And that's the stuff that needs a lot more time. I think what needs more attention and more philosophical reform are their events, because the events are crazy stale in terms of the yearly seasonal interaction. Once you upgrade your player, there's almost no reason to play the game unless you just grind in wins for no reason. Like, you have nothing really to look forward to once your player reaches the rating that they want, or you have the deck that you want if you are playing my team.
Yeah. Uh, you know, I would agree. I would agree for the most part. I think we've gotten to the point where we got used to the way that 2K controls. And if we like the game overall, then we're kind of like, yeah, well, it's 2K. Speaking of events, and you were talking about events and how, some of them need to be philosophically changed. Do the Lakers need to change or maintain the way that they retire jersey numbers? They have retired jersey numbers in I think only the Celtics have retired more numbers than the Lakers. I mean, but we're talking about the two most decorated franchises in basketball. I want to ask this question because I saw it someplace. Do you think that the Lakers should retire LeBron's number if they do not win a title? And if you do think that they need to retire it only if he wins a title, is one enough, considering most of their all-time greats have multiple titles?
I wish I had a stronger word for no. Yet. Russians are tough people. Maybe they know it's stronger than ours. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely not. There's a joke me and a buddy of mine have called White Darth Vader, right? And it was basically, if you see a pink Darth Vader toy on the shelf, and it's like, what, a breast cancer awareness Darth Vader, and you say to yourself, I ain't got nothing to do with Darth Vader. You know why that exists? Because one day somebody let white Darth Vader in. There's a comic book where there's Darth Vader in all white, and that editor should have said, no, Darth Vader is Darth Vader, and we will not budge. Why am I discussing this? Because the Lakers are the best franchise in NBA history. They are the best. Yes, I realize the Celtics have one more championship on the books, but we all know that in context, the Celtics have spent much more time being completely irrelevant than the Lakers. The Lakers have basically had a winning team almost all the time. Right. And they're only down by one in terms of overall championships. And they've also had like the most all-time great players on their team overall, right? Because they've been great for so long. They cannot move that bar at all for LeBron James. If they do that, everything else goes downhill from there. No, championships is the bar. If you say one championship, I think it entirely depends on what that looks like. So let's say LeBron, they don't win the championship this year. Let's say next year they get Anthony Davis, they win the championship, LeBron's awesome. But then after that, they don't win any more championships and LeBron just declines, then no. But if, let's say LeBron stays here till he's 40, he's like Kareem in that he's never a bad player. And they're always in it. They make the finals a bunch of times. He only gets one, but the Lakers are excellent for his entire run. Then yeah, that's the one is enough. It depends entirely on what he does. I think one can get him in, but if he don't get one, I don't care if he averaged 50, 20, and 25. No. You have one job.
You sound like Cody Parkey right now. It sounds like we're talking about Cody Parkey. I don't even want to go there though. I'm not. It's too soon. I can't talk about it yet. I can't talk about it yet. But okay, I understand what you're saying. I do. And I would tend to agree, because for me, it's either about longevity or championships. Right. And it has, and the longevity can't be longevity through futility. I mean, it can, depends on the relationship. See, retired numbers are different than like Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Retired numbers are more personal.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's got a lot to do with the relationship between the player and the organization sometimes. And that usually comes in when maybe the accomplishments within the uniform or within the organization don't just automatically befit being having your number retired. And I don't know, perhaps Magic Johnson's relationship with LeBron and the way that it is probably going to grow during this time, maybe that becomes one of those personal type of relationships. I don't know. But we talked about it being about championships, right? And now, definitely, this gentleman has the longevity and the time period of being just an amazing player throughout the Lakers, but throughout his career. He spent his whole career with the Lakers. But Elgin Baylor does not have a championship, and Elgin Baylor's number is retired. But now he did play from 58 to 72, all with the Lakers.
Also, and I would argue that Elgin Baylor, the Lakers have a lot of championships after Elgin Baylor.
Yes.
So it's a different standard now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like in the post-Kobe era, Kobe got 5.
Yeah.
And Powell got 2. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different now. The Lakers now have a standard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's almost similar a little bit to the Giants, even though the Giants aren't the same exact level, but the Giants are a top NFL franchise now because of, you know what I'm saying? So now we hold the Giants to that standard now. We ain't going.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Giants kind of were for, back the whole like Y.A. Tittle time. I mean, they were always, it's New York. So it's, there's going, people treat the Knicks as if they're a top NBA franchise. And if you look at the amount of times that they've won championships over their entire existence, they really probably shouldn't be looked at quite like that.
And I agree with you. And to that point, if the Knicks went on a run, that would change what you just said.
Yeah.
And that's the entire point, is that the Lakers earned the right to say, we don't hang your banner unless we don't hang you in the rafters unless you get us rings. They've earned that right. They've earned that standard. It's set in stone. It cannot change. But before did you have anything else to say on that?
I mean, I kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know about that, man, because do you know how many championships the Lakers had already won when they retired Elgin Baylor's number?
Yeah, no, it was a lot, but it's more now. It's a lot more now. Is it like 10 more now, right? 10 more after, right?
Is it 10 more after? We got, let's see, this is 3, 6. There's 8 more after.
That's a lot of
but they won 7. They'd already won 7.
But 8 makes a difference. 8 makes a big difference.
I mean, so now what is it? 50, it's total 15 now.
I tell you what, you throw them 8 championships on any franchise in the league, and all-time great franchise. If you literally split the Lakers championships in half and divide them amongst everybody else, everybody gets that much better, which is my entire point.
Yeah, but, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, the biggest argument against LeBron getting his number retired with the Lakers, and this is assuming I'm not talking about right now. We're all talking about assuming he plays 4 or 5 years with the Lakers. He has to play
in re-sign.
Yeah, play 4 or 5 years with the Lakers, and that's what we're talking about. And he's still really good throughout that time, and maybe he gets them to the playoffs each season. and perhaps, you know, an NBA finals or whatever, but they don't win a championship. That's kind of what this whole argument is about, you know, in that scenario. So not after one season, no. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know, man. 4 or 5 years at the level that he's playing now or somewhere close.
Nah, there's a lot of suffering and sacrifice in those Raptors, and he needs to meet that standard of suffering, sacrifice, and success in order to join those ranks. And you can't change that for nothing. But you brought up something, and I know this isn't on our topics list. Yeah. But you did bring it up. I wanted to ask you, since you're a Chicago guy, Cody Parkey. No, this is a legitimate question. I'm not just doing this to torture you. Even though the pain in your eyes,
the wounds are still fresh.
I cannot hide the pleasure that is bringing me, but this is not why I brought it.
Oh, Lord Jesus, help me.
My question to you is, do you think that was a block?
It was a block. It was deflected. I mean,
so do you think he's catching too much flack?
No, I mean,
because of deflection.
No, that
would be on his line. Right?
No, it's not on his line. It's on him, because part of the kicker's job is the trajectory.
Kick it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the trajectory, you know, and so that's on. That still's on him, you know. Here's my thing, and I've said this before. I've said this like on Twitter or whatever, right? Was I mad at the time? Yes. And did he blow the game? Absolutely. Yes, Cody Parkey blew the game. He did. But I'm not one of those people. Like, I turn into a human being really quick, right? Yeah. So I'm a fan for about 15 minutes, but I turn into a human being real quick.
Right.
And all I could do was put myself in dude's shoes.
Yeah.
Everybody has messed up on their job before.
For sure.
Everybody.
And he's messed up the second most.
Yes. He missed 5. He hit the goalpost 5 times this season, right? Which is totally unheard of. Like, that's like in my lifetime, and over 38 years of watching football, I would say I probably started really, really watching when I was like 4.
Because
right?
in perspective, hitting the goalpost that many times almost seems like it's on purpose.
And I don't even think anybody could do that. I don't think you could do it on purpose. If you tried to hit the goalpost 5 times, I don't think you could do it on purpose. I don't think you could. Like, even if you were like even if you got paid to hit the goalpost,
like if that was the point,
I don't think he could do it. You know, but it's like, I get to the point where it's like, I just imagine myself, right, being the dude who ruined all of my coworkers' opportunity, all of the customers in the store. Say I work retail, right? And I just did something in my job that all of the cashiers, I ruined it for them. All of the stock people, I ruined it for them. All of the manufacturing people, I ruined it for them. All of the customers in the store is all like, dude, what are you doing? And I legit tried my best, but I messed up. It don't change the fact that you messed up. Right. And it don't change the fact that, yes, it's all is your fault. All of this is your fault. But I still pull back and go, man, that really sucks right now to be you. It really sucks right now. And I'm not a pile on guy. I'm just not. And I feel like what that guy is feeling legitimately right now is enough. It's enough. It's enough. I don't think we need now. The Bird Box meme was hilarious. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But I think that there's a point where we kind of be like, and I'm like, you know, I mean, you get paid a lot of money to kick a football. So I don't feel super, super sorry for you in terms of that.
Like, as long as he's a man, though.
Yeah, he's a man. And as long as this is about football, it's fine. But sometimes people take things to a whole nother level. You start people getting death threats and all kinds of crap. Like, come on, man. And then, like I said, everybody has messed up on their job. There's somebody who was going super bananas on Cody Parkey, who had just left work Friday and had just did something that got themselves put on final warning.
Right.
And they got one more thing. They got one more thing.
Credit to your city. I was actually in your city, I think, when your when the hockey team won.
Yeah.
And
which time? Well, one of them times.
yeah.
Yeah.
And y'all got some sports fans in that city.
Oh man, it's insane in here, man. It's
Y'all
insane.
love sports like for real. All
Yeah.
sports, like Chicago's in there. So it's nice that one Chicago fan has forgiven Cody already.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
say the word. Say you forgive him, man. Just say
I do. I absolutely forgive him. I absolutely. I mean, and I actually wouldn't even mind having him back because I would like to see him
redeem himself.
Redeem himself. I think that would make.
I think that's the important thing that people need to understand.
Yeah.
People like Cody Parkey, their failure is an opportunity for you to think about what you would do when you fail.
Yes.
And he's just got to get himself back up and be better, get better, and do better, and get it back next year.
Yeah,
and, that's what failure is all about. It's just showing what you need to grow. It is, man.
And like I said, I love the Bears, but I love people more. So it's that's just kind of what it is. But I want to transition because clearly, we talk. I mean, Cody Parkey had some times in his career where he was hot. Right now, he is absolutely cold. He cold as hell right now. I mean, he's cold, right? So I want to start a different segment, right? Something we haven't done, and this is meant to be quick hitting. And I think this is training for both me and Books, because we very rarely are quick hitting about anything. So we want to do. It's called hot and cold. I'm going to throw out.
That's because you always wrong and stubborn at the same time.
Well, you know, I think that is absolutely incorrect. Just, you know, it just absolutely is. I mean, I don't even know how I can even explain how incorrect that is. But anyway, we're gonna throw out a couple segments, or not a couple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually. And the object of this is to hit it quick and just go through them. We can share what we think. Are we hot or are we cold on these things? So they are going to be random. So y'all just bear with us as we fly through. So the first thing, I'll go ahead and go first, so we can alternate Books. Resident Evil 2 remake. It's coming out. I believe it's January 26th. I think it is, for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Hot or cold? I am burning up. I'm talking about
hot fire.
I'm super hot fire. My
looks so good.
Oh my God, it looks good. Like,
in fact, we talked about most anticipated games. That is definitely on the list. I don't remember if we mentioned it. Ooh,
it's on the list. It looks dude. And so, okay, so yesterday they put out the information about their demo. It's called the one-shot demo, right? You get 30 minutes to play this demo, period. So the demo is timed. You don't get a chance to play more than 30 minutes no matter what. You have 30 minutes to complete this one mission. And it starts on January 11th. So when you guys see this, it'll be Thursday. So Friday is when the next day is when you'll be able to download it, and it runs for January 11th to January 31st. You're in this mission as Leon S. Kennedy. You're dropped into Raccoon City on your first day on the job. They got zombies and puzzles. You got 30 minutes to get through it. If you get through it, you unlock a cinema screen, or a cinematic trailer or whatever that hasn't been seen before. But they throw you right into the middle of the action, and you get all of the jump scares or whatever. And I think it's a really smart demo, because 30 minutes is enough time for you to know if I want to play this some more.
Yeah.
And if they've done it right, they've tried to pack in all of the game's best points in this 30-minute segment. Man, I'm
especially
fired
with
up.
a horror game, because it's horror, like comedy, like porn. If it works as soon as you see it.
Yep.
And I think the comparison I would make is PT, which they're making a virtual reality version of that. Which I mean, props to you if you do that. Wear a diaper. But I played through PT. They had my money. I didn't need to see no more. You got it. Let's go. And I think Resident Evil will be the same thing. I'm so glad it's a remake and not a remaster.
Yes.
Because similar to what we were talking about in our first segment of the show, you can't just make old stuff again and ignore all of the innovations and great ideas that have been executed. So yeah, super hot fire. Moving on. Let's go.
Smart take on that for sure. They're bringing it the right way. All right, the next one, you go first on this one. Kingdom Hearts, are you hot or cold?
I am lukewarm. I tell you why. I love the characters, especially the Disney stuff. Final Fantasy, I'm more of a fan of Final Fantasy from 6 on back. Huge fan of everything up to Final Fantasy 6. It gets shaky after that. Once they started having long shampooed hair, I got a little iffy. Once they stopped lifting weights, I got a little iffy. Once Amino stopped doing the artwork, I got a little iffy. But I like Final Fantasy enough. Love Disney, Pixar. So I'm somewhat excited about it. But a lot of people have said this in their previews. Nobody really knows what Kingdom Hearts is about.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the great RPGs that have been released since Kingdom Hearts, you're talking about Witcher 3, you're talking about the Mass Effect trilogy, you're talking about Dragon Age Origins and Awakening, you're talking about, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, all that stuff. You can't give me some nonsense story and I'm just going to like it because the characters are cute and in nice looking polygons. So I'm lukewarm because I am not about, and I'll even throw the South Park Stick of Truth in there. Like, I am not about playing a game that doesn't make sense anymore. If it's an RPG, I need a story that makes sense. And so far, I'm not convinced that they have dedicated themselves to that.
Well, for me, I'm lukewarm as well. And a lukewarm for me for this particular genre is a compliment, right? Because I'm not a huge RPG guy, right?
Yeah.
But I am a huge fan of mashup rosters and mashup character, character sets. I've always loved those what if type of things. I remember that was one of my favorite comic book series from Marvel's, the what if comics, where they would bring in all this different stuff that was from or whatever. And then I remember there's been a couple, I think, people have done Marvel versus DC type of concepts, and that like that kind of stuff, just I love it, right? It's awesome to think about. So bringing in Disney and Square Enix and all of these different characters and bringing that in, that has always excited me about Kingdom Hearts or whatever. But I don't love the overall concept, but I'm willing and interested to look. One of the things that does have me a little bit worried, and some people are considering this a positive, is that they've switched the engine from the Luminous engine to Unreal 4, to the Unreal 4 engine. And I understand that the Unreal 4 engine is, or Unreal Engine 4 is something that is supposedly more developer friendly, and that the Luminous engine had some problems with it. But if you've ever worked in any place where there's a team and there's a group, and so you have this large contingent that's been there for a while, and then you have some new people or what have you, and there's a way that they've always done something, right? And then something comes in from the top, from management, and they say, we're changing all this. We're going to change the way this whole thing is done. We're going to do it like this. If you've ever been worked at any place where you've seen something like that happen, there's always pushback from the people who have been there. And they're like, well, we were doing it like this before, especially if they've had any level of success beforehand. So I'm a little bit not this much concerned, but this much concerned about the cohesion in that switch over. So that's one thing we'll wait to see how that works out. But everybody's hyped for this game, at least all of the diehard fans of the series. I mean, man, they had a trailer that was out. Maybe it was out 4 days. It had out 4.5 million views already. So people are looking. Speaking of looking, all right. Next on Hot and Cold is Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown. I would say I am lukewarm on that, and I would say that is a compliment for me on this particular genre as well, because I have never been a huge flight simulator, aircraft battle type of I'm not huge fan of those. I've played some, but not all the time. I think I've played most of the games in Ace Combat. I think I stayed locked in for an extended period on maybe one or two versions, right? But the reason why I'm not cold on this and this is really strange for me because I'm also not a huge VR fan. But this looks like the first VR experience that to me takes advantage of the tech.
Okay.
Because let's just be honest, VR don't fit for everything. But
no,
they're trying to make it fit.
Resident Evil is the one thing I really, really want to play on VR. Outside of that, I'm not super cute.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm interested in seeing that. I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. Are you hot or cold on Ace Combat 7?
I would say hot, not extremely hot, but between lukewarm and hot. So I'm like medium spicy on that one. Same. so you know, I'm same thing as you. First of all, I love flying games. My main issue with Ace Combat is I want to feel the whole experience of being part of a flight crew, not just the flying part. I want the whole, you know, flight movie experience that you get from something like a Top Gun or whatever. If they're bringing that and it's VR, then I'm going to get it and I'm going to love it. If it's just another Ace Combat game but VR, when it gets cheap, I'll pick it up as one of those games that like, okay, I'm in the mood for it, so let me get into it, but it won't be something I'm super hyped
for. We're still hot and cold, but we're switching. We're going out of video games and we're going into more combat sports entertainment. Hot or cold on Kobe Covington? So I'll start off here. I am frigid. I mean, I am sub-zero temperatures on Kobe Covington. And let me explain. Kobe Covington is a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He has major wrestling talent, and his conditioning is off the chart. And he also has, whether people want to admit it or not, really high fight IQ. He understands what he's good at. He understands what his opponents are not good at. And he's a good athlete. And so he's able to capitalize and execute a game plan based off of what his strengths are and based off of what his opponent's weaknesses are. So that is what it takes to be a good fighter. What I don't like about Kobe Covington is his approach. To me, he has made a caricature of himself. And right about now, he's upset because he was promised a title shot and now he's not going to get one, at least in the foreseeable future. He was an interim champion, which he should never have been given that. And he got stripped of that. So now he tried to basically make himself this super WWE-like villain in order to get, to climb up the rankings of the UFC and to, get his name out there. But now it's almost like it hasn't worked. And now he's turning on Dana, turning on the UFC. And, now he's playing the villain role in another way, trying to get up from there. So now he just looks desperate to me and just even more ridiculous than he did to begin with. So, yes, I am absolutely cold.
I'm the opposite. I'm a little hot on Kobe Covington. I think he backed out of the Woodley fight because of injury concerns. And when you're hurt as a fighter, you don't want to go into details. You don't want to make a big deal out of it. And he's also playing a character. I don't get mad at Kobe Covington for trying to sell fights. The UFC benefits from having a little WWE in it when they're not fighting.
Yeah.
And he brings that. And I think we would have really loved to have seen that fight.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why Dana took it away from him. But
I have a theory. This is pure speculation,
please.
But I do have a theory. I have a theory that because Dana they've seemed to take a hard pivot on Kobe Covington. Because at first, Dana was very much a proponent of everything that he was doing. And being a proponent meant not ever saying anything negative about him, even when he was approached and asked about racist things that he said. I mean, because Kobe said some stuff that if he was in the NBA or the NFL, he'd be suspended.
Right. But I think, I'm not excusing anybody who genuinely says something like that. I think it's plausible to believe that Kobe is kind of wink, nudge, nudge. I'm playing a character about this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So When it's like a comedian to a degree.
It's a little bit of
I'm
him.
not gonna treat you like you in a CNN interview saying something honestly when you're clearly trying to create an experience for entertainment.
Well, I think that it's a little him, just based off of people who know him.
Yeah,
You know, I think it's a little him, but it definitely is him on steroids.
yeah.
And it's him on steroids, and not him specifically on steroids. So I don't want to,
No, you're right.
you
His
know, but
personality.
his personality on steroids. But you know, my issue is you cannot, as an organization, help to promote somebody who is projecting that image, even if it is a character. To me, as the UFC, I know what they've done, and I know that they do benefit from a WWE type of an element. But personally 100% believe that, and I don't want to come off as somebody who has problem with trash talk. I don't. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for most sports. I'm full in support of trash talk in the middle of a baseball game. I don't care. I know a lot of people have unwritten rules about that. I think it's ridiculous. I do think, though, that there are certain things that get to a point where they are over the line. And I think over the line comes in when you're insulting an entire group of people and not the person you're fighting or competing against. You know, that to me is when it's like, okay, now it's not.
I don't disagree with you, but I think with Kobe, there's a blurry line between, like, say, Ric Flair going to Minnesota and being like, you guys are all fat and stupid, right? To all of Minnesota, and what Kobe Covington does. I think Kobe Covington, even if he makes a mistake, I think that's usually his intention.
Yeah, I definitely think he's trying to get the cheap heat that you get in WWE. So every time you go on the road, you insult the entire city. I get that. But I think that there's a more clearly defined WWE is a character. This is not this guy, because next week he'll be a face. This week he's a heel. That's not exactly the dynamic in the UFC. This is this actual person. This person is actually saying this.
I feel
he's not playing a different guy.
To go to the other end of the spectrum, the comparison I would make would be Kobe Bryant. After they won in the finals, I think it was against Boston. They said, Kobe, you weren't answering anybody in interviews. You were treating everybody like crap. What's going on, man? And he was smiling. He was laughing. And he basically said, I was playing a character, because if I was just Kobe Bryant, the man, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I needed to do to beat these guys. And I needed to get into character. Now I'll answer all your questions honestly. And I think with Kobe, there was the potential, or there is the potential, that like after he retires and he's not fighting anymore, he'd be doing commentary like, hey man, I'm going to Brazil, making them mad at me because I'm fighting their guy, and I know that makes them that gives them a better time. I think that's possible with Kobe. It looks like that's what he's doing. So I'm very, very hesitant to ascribe that to him as if he's just like seriously saying these things. And for that reason, I think Dana White doesn't like Tyron Woodley. Now all of a sudden he doesn't like Kobe Covington. And that's why I'm hot on Kobe, because it's more about being cold on Dana White, allowing his personal preferences dictate what would be best for the sport sometimes.
Oh, I'm a blizzard on Dana. I mean, that never changes. That never changes. I mean, I'm snowstorm on Dana. You know, I'm straight snowstorm on Dana. I mean, you 100%, right? So yeah, it's definitely not. I'm on Dana's side. So I think they both just have absolute trash elements to the way that they carry.
But would you rather see Kobe fighting Woodley?
Absolutely. I think that's the right fight. I think it's the right fight. It's absolutely the right.
And that's why I say I'm hot on Covington, not because I'm a huge fan, but just because in this particular case, I think he deserves that fight. I think he has a legitimate beef here.
100%. Staying with hot and cold. This is our last one on this particular segment. Hope y'all like it. If you do like it, make sure you hit it up in the comment sections and say more hot, cold, or less hot and cold. But I'm going to take the lead on this one because Books hasn't had an opportunity really yet to see this a lot. But All Elite Wrestling just basically it was just officially announced on New Year's Day. And you might be saying, well, what is All Elite Wrestling? All Elite Wrestling is a brand new professional wrestling promotion, and is headed by the co-owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tony Khan, who's the son of Shad Khan, and also Cody Rhodes, Nick and Mac Jackson, which they're the Young Bucks, and all three of them are serving as vice presidents. Tony Khan's going to be the president. Cody's wife, Brandy Rhodes, is the chief branding officer, and a lot of people in the wrestling industry are excited about this because they think that it represents a a different brand of wrestling. So a lot of people are maybe disenchanted with the WWE, and they are excited about All Elite Wrestling. I'd say I'm hot on.
Okay, can I ask you a question on this?
Sure.
Before we get too stuck into it, how is it different from the WWE? And I'm going to ask this with a caveat. Now, the different than WWE that I personally enjoyed the most was ECW. I watched ECW religiously, catching it late nights on weird timings and broadcasts and stuff like that all the time because it was more brutal. But now WWE is a lot different than it has been. And some people wish for the Attitude Era. And what was the one after that? What they call?
Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah. So some people are wishing for certain aspects of these previous eras of WWE. Which different brand from current WWE is All Elite?
Well, I don't think it's more so about, oh, we're gonna have all this super edgy content all the time, and which is what pretty much people talk about when they talk about the Attitude Era. People generally want to see a lot of, forbidden type stuff. They want to see a lot of stuff to go, that makes them do that. And I honestly think the Attitude Era is a little overrated. Because I think that they depended a little too much on shock value, and that carried the day more than personalities did. I do think that they had much better personalities in the promotion at the time, but I think that they stood on shock a little bit too much. But I don't think that that's what AEW is going for. I think that they are more going for better payment practices for their wrestlers, for the people signed to their roster, better showcases for female divisions. So one of the things that came out from their initial rally was that women would be on the same pay scale as men. So meaning that an entry level woman into the organization will be paid the same as an entry level man. A woman who has established herself in the industry would be paid the same amount as a male who has established himself at the same level. So that is definitely pinging on the gender equality initiative that is pretty much throughout every workforce now that is going, out there, probably with the exception of NFL. Yeah, so I thought I froze for a little bit there. So that's one of the things that they're doing. Also, I think from a storyline standpoint, they want to have things that are more layered. They want to have characters who are doing more from a microphone standpoint. They want to have people who are, they don't want anybody who is not good in the ring. But they understand, because all of these people that are involved are hardcore wrestling folks. So they know that it's not just about being good in the ring. You got to be able to deliver a promo. You got to have a character. You got to be a person who is able to command an emotional response from the fans one way or the other. Right. They also talked about during their rally, which is something that I thought that the WWE should go with for a while. It's just allowing people to be whatever character they are. No heel, no face, just you are whatever you are, and you just pretty much allow the fans to like whoever they like, and dislike whoever they don't, and just have it whatever. So that's one of the things that came out as well. The biggest thing for them is going to be, like, right now, well, Kenny Omega is the biggest free agent out there. By the time you guys see this, we may already know who he's going to sign with. Or
if Kenny signs with them, then I'm definitely more towards the warm side because I'm a big fan
yes,
of Kenny Omega.
yeah.
Love
If
me
they
Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega is probably one of the most complete guys out
Yeah.
there. I mean, he's
Excellent
got,
Street Fighter player, by the way.
yeah. Oh, he
He's
is.
like,
Yeah,
he's like legitimately excellent.
he's a big time gamer, right? And a lot of his characterization and persona has come from different video game characters that he's loved in the past and that he's adapted his stuff to. So if they sign him, it's going to be huge. The WWE has a huge offer to him, but Kenny Omega's a different kind of dude, and it wouldn't shock me at all if he spurned the WWE and chose All Elite Wrestling, especially since he already has a relationship with
That wouldn't
Cody.
shock me, but I bet they're sending a big check out his way. I wouldn't be surprised because the thing that he was building for Austin Creed for a while was big time. So
yeah,
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I know he wants him. I know he wants him because he, I mean, Xavier Rhodes gets it. He knows. Yeah. Xavier Rhodes is an indie dude in the WWE. Really, that's what he is. So, but yeah, and he obviously is a gamer too. So he hope that the culture matches for sure. But Kenny Omega has said in the past that he would love to come to the WWE so he could wrestle AJ Styles at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But one of the sticking points might be that they're not going to give Kenny Omega creative control of his character. They're not.
Right.
And that's what he wants.
Yeah.
So so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the biggest thing outside of Kenny Omega is getting a TV deal. Because if you're going to be major in professional wrestling, you need to be on television as well as available from a streaming standpoint and with your events and so on and so forth. You need to be there because hardcores are only going to carry you so far, and casuals are generally going to find you flipping through channels. And so that accessibility needs to still be there for now. So I'm interested to see if there's rumors out there about them potentially being linked with a Time Warner company, maybe even a Turner, you don't know, but that's going to determine whatever. But for right now, I am hot. All right, so I got to talk. And if you guys know me, you probably already know. You're probably wondering when this was going to happen. We got to talk about Jimmy Butler.
Oh my goodness. I was wondering whether it was going to be Butler or Tibbs. You went with Butler.
I'm going Butler.
I'm glad you're going Butler because you a dirty hater when it comes to poor Jimmy.
All I'm saying is, what did I say? I'm telling y'all, Jimmy Butler will ruin the chemistry on a fantasy basketball team. He's terrible, man. I'm telling y'all, everybody isn't lying on this dude. If everywhere you go, I said this before, and now it's manifesting itself because Jimmy Butler is having problems with Brent Brown. Brent Brown
came out and said that it was nothing.
Well, is he going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, you're right"? Is he going to come out?
Actually, when they have problems, well, first of all, when Jimmy Butler came out in Minnesota, everybody said, "Yeah, it was a problem. We taking care of it."
Tibbs didn't.
No, but it wasn't about Tibbs. It was about
Tibbs was the head coach. It was about Tibbs. He called Tibbs out. He called Flip Saunders out. He called everybody out at that practice when he had his tantrum.
You said he called Flip Saunders out.
But I mean, not but his the you know who I'm talking about.
The kid, right?
The kid. Yeah, he called everybody out. I hope he didn't call Flip out. That would have been really.
You said too much about Jimmy.
That would take it. Now I'm really bad on Jimmy. Now he's calling the dearly departed out. You know what I'm saying? He called everybody. He called management out. He called front office out. He called everybody out during his tantrum. Tibbs could have responded and said, "Oh, it was nothing. It was just a guy in practice going through. It happens in practice. What stays in practice is in practice." He could have did all that. He didn't do any of that. So no head coach.
But that's not what Brett Brown said. So you calling Brett Brown a liar?
I'm not calling Brett Brown a liar. What I'm
Brett
saying,
Brown said it was nothing.
what I'm saying is there's no head coach that I've seen that's going to have that type of an issue. That's just a rumor. There's no proof of it. And he's going to come out and acknowledge, oh yeah, well, we had a problem, but that nobody, for the most part, that's not going to happen. You're going to see a coach downplay it all the time. That's what's going to happen. Dude, so we're calling whoever came up with this initial report a liar. Who is an impartial person?
Well, first of all, the media creates drama where there is little drama.
Absolutely, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's part of what we get paid to do.
Here's what we do know. We do know that the Sixers are 7-3 out of their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. They have an excellent record. They've been much better since Jimmy Butler has gotten there. And the coach has said that all of his players come up to him wanting something all the time. That's a part of coaching. And that the conversation that he had with Jimmy Butler, he said he talks to Jimmy all the time. He likes.
I bet he do. I bet he does talk to Jimmy all the time.
He said he likes talking to Jimmy, and that this was not out of line or out of the regular for coach and player interactions, and it wasn't even a bad thing or a big deal.
Oh my God! This is getting worse. This is getting worse. This is getting worse than your Russell Westbrook support. It's really getting worse.
I'm not even supporting Jimmy Butler. I'm just repeating what he said. I'm looking at the facts.
Me too.
I'm just looking at what's happening on the court. They're a good team. They're a better team. It looks like they want to re-sign him. In fact, there's a recent report from Woj that he's their #1 priority to make sure he's happy and signing him. If he was such a cancer, that wouldn't make any sense.
We'll see. We'll see. All I'm saying
how the Timberwolves doing without Jimmy?
Timberwolves are doing as expected, I would think. I don't think the Timberwolves are a horrible team without Jimmy. I don't think so at all. And right now, Derek's not playing. He's nursing a sprained ankle, but they won last night. They're on a 3-game winning streak. If you really want to know how they're doing,
no, how they're doing though? What place they in?
No, if they're not in the playoffs. I mean, but this is not about. That's not what this is about.
Last year they was in 3rd place around this time of the year with Jimmy Butler.
No, this is not. That's not what. But the West is better this year than it was last year.
They don't only play Western Conference teams.
But we're talking about where they are in relation to the standings for the Western
Actually, I think the West was better last year.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. The resurgent of the Sacramento Kings are a much better team. Utah's still in the mix. The Clippers are a better team.
2 under 500 teams.
The Clippers are not an under 500
Houston
team.
Is playing worse. I said 2. You named 2 under 500 teams: Utah and Sacramento.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. But those teams are. But honestly, that's where
San Antonio has been.
That's
worse
part of where
part of the year. Portland has been worse for most of the part of the year.
San Antonio is the hottest team in the NBA right now.
They're playing well now, but that's not.
They're the hottest team in the NBA right now.
That has nothing to do with Minnesota's record.
No, it does though, because when you're talking about,
I said for most of the year. Last year they were super consistent.
When you're talking about the value or the status of the conference, you got to talk about not just the teams that are in the playoffs, not just the top 4. You're talking about night in, night out, because you play more conference games than you play out of conference games. You looking at how good is everybody in the conference.
And who's better than they were? Almost everybody in the East outside of Washington.
Out of the Bulls are not better. I don't think the Knicks are.
I'm talking about teams that are good.
No, but this is what I'm saying to you. If you look from top to bottom in the Western Conference, and you look from top to bottom in the East, the West is better.
Well, that's only if you are. But no. Because you counting how good are the bad teams.
Exactly, because you play them too.
How good are the good teams?
No, but here's the thing: you play the teams in the West. The whoever we're right now we're just talking about the West. Talking about Minnesota. Minnesota is going to play the Nuggets just as many times as they're going to play another
So
team
let me
in
ask you a
Utah.
straightforward question. Who's a better team, Minnesota or the Philadelphia 76ers?
That's an insane question. Of course, Philly
Why
is
is it
better.
insane?
Philly was better than Minnesota before they got Butler.
They weren't better than Minnesota last year.
What?
They
Yes,
weren't.
they were.
No, they weren't. Minnesota was third. It's the only reason Minnesota
It's two
fell
different
off.
conferences. We're talking about if these two teams played each other in a series, Philly last year would have beat Minnesota.
I don't know that for sure. I definitely don't know that. Oh my God,
I don't know why you don't.
The main reason I don't know that for sure is because the only reason Minnesota fell off from being as high as they were is because Jimmy got hurt. And
that's not the only reason, man. And here's the thing. And I've never implied that Jimmy Butler is not a good basketball player. I've never implied that. What I maintain and what this latest news supports is that he is a freaking cancer for your organization, for your locker room, and he is never, ever going to be a top player for a team that wins a championship. Never. He never will, because his personality, his selfishness will always circumvent the ultimate goal. And what's worse is that because he's a deceiving type of a player, he's a trap player, because he's good enough to make you believe he can be a part of you winning. He's good enough for that, but his negativity always snatches the rug from under his coach and from under the other players on his team with comparable talent. He is an ultimate loser and will be unless he changes.
Here's my problem with that argument, because the teams that are winning right now, the championships, it's basically just Golden State. And the reason Golden State are winning is because they have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and they're going to have Boogie Cousins soon. And you can't say Jimmy Butler's a loser because the Sixers didn't beat that.
No, that's not why. It really has nothing to do with the other teams.
Until Butler is on a team that would be championship level, if it weren't for him being a cancer, then your point doesn't get proven. Because Jimmy Butler hasn't underachieved yet on a team.
It's more of a projection than it is anything.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a projection, because obviously I can't say that I didn't say he's failed necessarily, but he has failed as a team. He has failed as a teammate, and it's just like this. Like we were talking about Dennis Smith. I think it was in last week's show, right? Dennis Smith hasn't proven 100% without a doubt that he isn't going to be Russell Westbrook, that he isn't going to be Kyrie Irving. But from what you've seen of him, you felt comfortable enough saying he won't become these guys. You felt comfortable.
No,
what I've seen from Jimmy Butler.
I need to clarify that, because what I said was Dennis Smith Jr. is a young point guard, and he may turn it around. Look, him turning into Derrick Rose is probably more likely than Moutier turning into Moutier, according to what they were doing on the court, last year, this year. So Dennis Smith Jr. has the potential. What I said was Dallas sees him every day in practice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have the data to make that decision. And if they feel comfortable making that decision, then they should. If I saw Dennis Smith Jr. in practice every day, how he trained, what he was improving on, the little nuances of his game that you don't get to see on TV, I would have a better evaluation. They have that evaluation. Me, as an observer from this point, like I said, all young point guards, the data could always be bad data until about 4 or 5 years in. So I'm not writing Dennis Smith Jr. off at all. I'm just saying, if you have to bet, this is what we know so far.
And if I had to bet,
Jimmy Butler is a finished product. There's no betting.
Which further supports what I'm saying. Jimmy Butler is a what I'm saying. No, Jimmy Butler's a finished product. This is who he is. So Jimmy Butler is a really good player who is fine as long as you're doing everything the way he wants it done. And you know what blows my mind? Is that Jimmy Butler doesn't get the same type of flack for his offensive game that Carmelo gets for his offensive game. Now, and one of the reasons why is because Jimmy plays defense. And not only does he play defense, he is a lockdown, as close as you're going to find it in the NBA under the current rule set. He is a phenomenal defender, right? Gives maximum effort on it most times. But offensively, he's a black freaking hole. And he doesn't move the ball. He wants to run isolations, which the game is totally moved past.
His request was actually to be involved in more pick and rolls, but he continue.
If you I watched Jimmy Butler like every freaking day during every game during his time here. Jimmy, especially if the people on the floor he doesn't respect. Jimmy wants to get the ball every rip, man. I can't even. I could if I had $1 for every time Jimmy Butler caught the ball, stopped the movement on the perimeter, planted his left foot, swung out his right foot in a reverse pivot to square up to be able to assess what he's about to do and take 2 to 3 seconds off the shot clock every single time he does that. If I had $1 for every time I saw him do that, it would be insane. Okay. And I'm not even saying that he's an effective offensive player, right? Like I said, this has nothing to do with Jimmy's game. Nothing at all. It has nothing to do. His game is very good. He is one of the top swing men, wing players in the NBA. He is. I would never say different. What I'm saying is this guy, as a teammate, as a player to coach, unless he changes and matures, is going to circumvent the championship effort of every team he's on. And I understand what you're saying. You're saying, what championship level team has he ever been on? I would agree. He hasn't played on a team that is true. This one is close. This one's close.
I mean, this team's biggest problem is that Ben Simmons won't shoot. And also they have and actually the fact that Markelle Fultz is a bust. Yes. Because if they had Markelle Fultz as a solid backup young point guard and Ben Simmons just shot as much as Giannis shoots, like he doesn't even have to shoot more than that, like literally just as much as Giannis shoots. Giannis would just occasionally shoot to make you pay and hit his free throws. Again, not at a terrific clip, but he's not liability. He's not afraid to take a free throw at the end of the game. Then we would be talking about them in the same breath as Toronto. And Boston and a healthy Houston team as like teams that if the Warriors have issues, we'll see what happens, which is as good as you're going to get if you're not the Warriors. Is if the Warriors have issues, you have a shot.
I'm telling you right now.
And what I'm seeing on the court is Philly's problems aren't Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is you compare him to Carmelo, he doesn't take as many shots as Carmelo. He's more efficient than Carmelo. He's a better 3-point shooter than Carmelo, and he plays defense. That's why. Like, that's the answer to your question.
Dude.
I'm just saying that's the answer to your question. You asked
no, it's not. It's actually not. It's actually not. It's actually not. Because
if Jimmy took 22 shots a game, if Jimmy didn't have as good of a 3-point shot, and if Jimmy didn't play defense, then people would criticize him the way they criticize Carmelo Anthony. But none of those things.
It's the defense. It's really the defense. It's that's really what it is. It's the defense, and it's also the athletic, because Jimmy will take the ball to the basket. Jimmy doesn't settle for as many jump shots. But my comparison and the relation I'm talking about is the resistance to perimeter ball movement, which is that's what most of these offenses are predicated on. And Jimmy does not subscribe to that concept at all. So that obviously their games are not the same.
I don't disagree that that's not a flaw in his game. However, your flaws are minimized by the context of the rest of your game.
And I already admitted that it's the defense. Most of it.
But here's the thing: as a willing and capable catch and shoot player, Jimmy Butler's isolation issues aren't as big as Carmelo's, Carmelo was on the 3-point line, stepped in and had to apologize to D'Antoni. Like, he's just allergic to, you know what I'm saying? He's just like, that's not my game. I can't play like that. That's why he can't get work.
I mean, I'm
not saying they're completely different.
Jimmy,
But you're asking how can they be similar and Jimmy not catch flack? I just answered why. If Carmelo made those changes, he would be in the league right now.
Well, Carmelo can't make those changes because Carmelo's not the athlete that Jimmy is, and he's younger. He's older than Jimmy. So there's a difference.
He can work on that 3-point shot.
He can work on the 3-point shot. He definitely can. I mean, but here's the thing: because of his athleticism, that's a shot. Because of his athleticism and because of the fact that they will not run an offense through him in the post, which is what he really, really wants. He wants that inside-outside opportunity because that's not going to happen. The shot he gets is the 3, and that's almost it. You know, when that's pretty much all Melo's going to get in most offenses now because of his deficiencies in other areas.
And the fact that he don't set no screens, yeah.
And he don't set screens. So, I mean, but I'm not trying to.
And he don't run pick and roll. Jimmy's asking to run more pick and roll.
I don't know about that.
That's literally what Brett Brown said. You saying Brett Brown's lying? Like he said, I'm saying
Brett Brown might be protecting a player that's on his team.
Okay.
By only sharing so much information. That's what I'm saying. He might be protecting a player on his team, which is what he should do. But there's been too many campfires for us to believe that there's not another flicker with this smoke. When your name keeps coming up in the same kinds of drama, it's really difficult for me to say, oh no, this isn't just another one of these things. Everywhere he's gone, man, everywhere he's gone, everybody's not lying on Jimmy Butler. Everybody's not lying. There's a problem. If you keep having the same problems, no matter where you go, it's time for you to look at yourself.
Here's the thing,
because in Chicago, we blame the rookies and we blame Fred Hoiberg and the young players and we blame Rondo. Okay, in Minnesota,
y'all got Jimmy out of town, and y'all are like arguably the worst team in the league.
Absolutely, but it was still a good trade. But who we got for him has been hurt a lot. So that's what that is. But it was still a good trade.
And then Minnesota went on to, until Jimmy got hurt, they were 3rd place in the West, and they broke a 14-year playoff curse.
And Jimmy he threw a tantrum. He threw a tantrum.
Actually, Jimmy quietly went to upper management and said, "I'm not re-signing. Send me out of here." And they said, "We'll see what we could do." And then they proceeded to not send him out.
Tantrum.
He threw a tantrum.
And he probably wasn't. And I don't doubt that he probably wasn't going to get moved, that they were going to do what was best for them as an organization. I don't doubt that. But like I told you back then, my problem with what he did was how he did it. Throwing people who were not a part of what was making you upset under the bus, to me, is indicative of your character, especially when it supports things that you've done in the past. He did similar things, throwing guys under the bus, creating division, subscribing to a cliquish mentality in Chicago. And then now you come to Minnesota, you don't get your way, you throw teammates under the bus again who have nothing to do with anything that you're talking about, and now you choose to, you're mad because management won't trade you. So now you want to air your teammates' dirty laundry, their flaws, all of these things you want to talk about. You want to make this a part of the narrative because you're mad. It's ultimate selfishness, and it all boils down to the same type of MO for Jimmy. It's all about Jimmy. And when you're that way, you're not going to be the best. You're not going to be one of the top players on the championship team. You're not. I'm telling you, I give you 6 to 8 months before we start to hear Jimmy talk about Ben Simmons in the public, and that creeps out. He won't mess with him.
They get along just fine, but we'll see.
For now, he won't mess with Embiid. But he'll pick Ben.
My thing is this. I'm not saying Jimmy's not difficult. I'm just saying that there's a lot of difficult players on championship teams. Historically, there have been some crazy stories that come out about how difficult guys are that we never heard about.
And I believe it.
Coaches coach, managers manage. Players play, and at the end of the day, it's about sacrificing for your teammates on the court, and playing good basketball. And right now, the 76ers are playing their best basketball of
But
the
I
year.
think what you just said was key, though. You said there's been a lot of difficult players, a lot of difficult situations that we haven't heard about. Now, whether or not we're talking about because we're in a different time and because we have the social media and all the
Oh
different
yeah, I mean
extended
it's
media
different
coverage,
now. We hear
it's
about everything.
we hear
There's
about
almost no
everything.
secrets in the league.
And exactly. And that's part of what I'm talking about. How much worse would the Boston Celtics, or how much would the Boston Celtics dynasty team had been affected if Larry Bird and Kevin McHale's feud hit the media and hit the public and that got involved? How much worse would it have been if all of the people that Michael Jordan clashed with during his time with the Chicago Bulls, if that had been made public knowledge and been a major conversation back then? We really don't know, but because people don't change very much, we can. I think it's not preposterous to think that it could have had an impact on things. And I'm just telling you, man, that guy, I have seen that guy in a variety of different fields and professions, and that guy almost always ruins everything. Just saying.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how it turns out.
And we'll see how it turns
Right
out.
now,
But
it sounds like you're talking about John Wall. John Wall's a guy that people genuinely don't like playing with. And
I don't know if that they
think-
don't
I don't
like
think
playing
I
with
don't think
him.
it's a
I think
John
they
Wall
don't
situation.
like. I don't think they don't like playing with John Wall. I think they don't like John Wall.
I think both. I think it's both.
I think people don't like John Wall.
You know why I think it's both? Because there have been people that guys like playing with that they don't like them off the court.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul's a great example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them guys can't stand Chris Paul, but they like Dennis Rodman. But on the court, they had no problems with him, so they're just willing to pull it aside. When they play with John Wall, they literally play with less joy than when he's hurt. Like that's why people keep asking.
I think they just don't like him, and I think the dislike.
And at his best, he plays good defense when John Wall's at his best.
Yeah, and even at his 80%, which is what he was at this season, he was still like a 20-9, 20-8 guy.
Right, and yet somehow, how does the team just eye test look like a better team when you're not here? That doesn't make sense. And the players are telling you, yeah, we hate him. Like it's coming out. We hate him. We hate playing with him. He's all about his numbers and himself. He's not really playing team ball. And he's not really trying to win. I don't think that's the case with Jimmy Butler. I do, and I think that's the key. I agree with you that Jimmy Butler is probably a really challenging locker room guy, but I disagree that Jimmy Butler's not trying to win. I think
I don't think that.
Win, I think you can make it work, and that's the big difference here.
Yeah, I don't think that he's not trying to win. I don't think John Wall's not trying to win. Yeah, I don't think that at all. I think that what it is it's the way you try to win. Because some people, and here's the thing, is winning the most important thing, or is winning because of me the most important thing? Because both still want to win, but is which one is your ultimate priority? Do you want to win with all the glory, or is it that you just want to win? You know, which one is it? And I think that Jimmy is at a place where he still wants this self-validation. He still wants that. And I think that he feels like his way to get it is by him leading a team. Man, can you imagine what Jimmy Butler's championship speech would look like and sound like? Oh my God. It would be, oh my God. You know, people say, you know, they was, you know, but this is what you got to do to be a champion. It would be the worst thing that ever happened to children.
Y'all see what he's like, people? Do y'all see what he's on?
It would be like somebody walking into a nursery school and saying, you're not going to ever do well unless you bust your teacher in the face with your math book. It'd be just on that same level. Jimmy Butler winning and being able to talk to kids from an authority, it would be
this
catastrophic.
Jimmy Butler winning would be the worst thing to happen to children. This is how
it would be the worst thing that ever happened to children of 5 years age and young, and it's horrible. It's a horrible concept.
I do my best not to be a James Harden hater. I just admit I don't like his game. The guy's really good.
I don't dislike James Harden's game. I don't dislike Jimmy Butler's game at all. And I you know, Jimmy Butler's just not a dude that I would want on my team. I wouldn't want Jimmy. I'm telling you, I'm on my fantasy team. I wouldn't draft him on my fantasy team because I would be afraid he would ruin the chemistry. Do you understand me?
You're like, ridiculous, man. You want me to play him in 2K?
Junior and I just did a fantasy draft on my league. Every single time Jimmy Butler was there, I said, I'm not going to do it. He's going to ruin my chemistry on my 2K team. I don't.
Junior, you got to win this for the people.
No, Junior doesn't want him there either. Junior, oh my God, Junior
brainwashed this boy.
No, he knows. I'm telling you, he can see it. I'm just trying to tell you, man. Jimmy Butler winning championships is the worst thing ever happened to children. You don't want it. You don't want it.
You gotta name that. You gotta name this segment. Championship will be the worst thing that happened to children.
You don't ever want that to happen. So on that note, we're gonna move on, and I want you all to remember: no, Jimmy Butler cannot win a championship. If you love your children, you will not root for Jimmy Butler to win. Look at me. If you love your children, don't you root for Jimmy Butler to win a championship. I told you, heard it here first. At any rate, I appreciate everybody from watching as usual. You guys make sure you tune in next week and let us know in the comments. I appreciate all the feedback, all of the conversation that we're having in the comment section. It's really pretty dope and very much encouraging. But that's all we got. And for my man Books and for my wife, the producer who had to dip out because she had to go get Junior. We appreciate you watching as always. God bless. Peace.
I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.